Welcome back to Comics, the podcast where me and my mom look through our comic book collection 2 issues at a time. Today we're going to look at Giant Size Fantastic Four #2. And this is a comic I got a couple of months ago at Pop's Comics near where we live in Louisville. And this is a really long issue. It's 68 big pages. And we're just going to look at the first story in it.
Oh, it's a multi-story. That's cool.
Yeah, so there's a main story, and then there's a reprint of Fantastic Four 13, which features the Red Ghost and his indescribable super apes. So I think it'll be a really long episode if we include this second one. I think I'll save that for a different time. I know the art is so different. Well, that's Jack Kirby art.
Excellent.
And this is John Buscema and Chick Stone.
Oh.
So it's in a little bit of ragged shape, but it was only a couple of dollars. I actually read this in the black and white collection, Essential Fantastic Four. I think it's volume 8. So I haven't actually looked at this since I bought it, the full color floppy version. So this is the second Giant Size Fantastic Four. And I used to think when I was a kid that these would be like bigger.
Mm-hmm. Like a magazine.
Yeah, like a different
that is my favorite way that they drew him.
Okay, Watcher, you sent me back in time to stop the Earth from going bang. But if them jokers get their way, I'm going to cash in my chips in the roaring 20s. An all-new, feature-length, FF epic, Time to Kill.
Jeez, it's really aggressive.
And I believe this is not the first time that the Thing has been put in the roaring 20s. Because there is an issue in the original Fantastic Four run where Ben is kidnapped by an alien who brings him to a battle world. It's actually really similar to a few different situations in Marvel Comics, like Planet Hulk, or that Thor movie where he finds Hulk on the battle world with Jeff Goldblum. It's not, is it the Collector or the, I forget his name.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
The Collector, I think, is the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But anyway, in that issue, he's brought to that battle world, which is a different... It's not actually called Battle World. I think that's from Secret Wars in Marvel. But Ben Grimm is brought to a planet where it's inhabited by aliens, but they've modeled their society on the 20s of America and on Earth. So I don't know. The point I'm trying to make is this is not the first time that Ben has been in the 20s, even if it's on a different planet. So let's see. This issue is from 1974, and this is an era of the Fantastic Four where Johnny has a red costume. It's weird looking.
Yes.
I think the yellow's weird to me. I don't like the yellow, but he's got his hot dog, ketchup, and mustard costume. And Medusa is the fourth member of the Fantastic Four in this era because this is around the time that Reed was forced to shoot Franklin, his and Sue's son, with some kind of device because Franklin was threatening all of humanity. His powers were out of control, or he was infused with cosmic energy and it was going to overload, and so he was forced to shoot him, and it put the kid in a coma. And so Sue and him are separated because she couldn't understand why putting her son into a coma was a less bad option than destroying everyone who was alive in the whole world.
She could have put him in some sort of force field.
Yeah, maybe.
But I suppose that would be
I think
lacking
it was probably
oxygen.
too powerful.
Yeah.
It's what that force field is always handy unless something's too powerful. Then her mental strain is very similar to Marvel Girl, who can lift things or move them unless she's overwhelmed. A lot of the female characters of this era,
Get over.
or just really any character that has like a mental aspect, because I think there's times where Human Torch is like too dazed to flame on or something like that.
Right.
But that's their way of because they're really powerful characters, so
Well,
it's their
and
way
the
around
thing,
that.
I mean, he's got his demons. That he's insecure. He's got anxiety. Depression, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So, this I kind of like Medusa in the Fantastic Four. They don't really flesh out her character that much, but they didn't really flesh out Sue's character that much either.
Right.
Before, in the Stan Lee era, she was kind of like. There were a few times where she would be like the saving grace because people forgot about her, and then, oh, why are those weapons floating away invisibly, like as if some invisible person was grabbing them. But then in this era of the Jerry Conway, and I think before this Roy Thomas was writing it for a little while, who became the editor-in-chief after Stan Lee, Sue had a more active role, but it was mostly to argue with Reed and say that he's spending too much time on science, which was a thing in the Stan Lee era, but she's a little more vocal and leaves, so they wrote her out for now. Anyway, chapter 1 is called Cataclysm, and they are in space. The Fantastic Four, this version of the Fantastic Four, are piloting a test vehicle. So Reed says, all right, Ben, head back to Cape Canaveral. This new suborbital shuttlecraft developed by NASA checks out on all levels. And so they're about to re-enter the atmosphere. And of course, something's going to go wrong. Say, what's with you, Torchy? Ain't you a little young to get cynical? Who's being cynical? Have you taken a look at food prices lately? It's like what
escalated.
the same shit people are talking about every day today. Never changes. 1974 or 2024, people are complaining about the price of things. As a buddy of mine once said, Benji, that and 2 bits just might get you a cup of coffee if you're willing to haggle the price down. It's a weird... It's a weird repartee they have.
Yeah.
This era is also soon. It's not too long after the Johnny Storm era where Crystal dumped him for Quicksilver, and so he's kind of like in a pissy mood a lot of the time, which is usually Ben's role on the team is to deflate everyone by being the sad sack.
Ooh.
Yeah, his face looks a little weird. Sometimes, that's interesting reading this in the Essential version where it's black and white. It's just the inked pencils versus this color. Sometimes the color, the way it's washed out, or, this is kind of a beat-up version of it, makes it look, gives it a whole different emotional tone.
Yeah, it really
does. It looks kind of sinister in that panel. So let's see. Yeah, you tell him, Reed. Tell him how much you and Medusa paid for that pizza last night. He's still going on about food prices. That's like when we used Pizza Hut a few weeks ago.
Oh my
God. It was like $500 for a medium pizza.
Medium pizza, yeah.
God. So anyway, they're about to go over the blasted planet. That's what... It's either blamed or blasted. Everything... the thing, it's like his favorite adjective. I used to think, because I used to read these comics as a kid, I remember trying those out when I was a kid around my friends, like, that blamed thing. This blasted homework. People are like, what?
Yeah.
Nobody, it wasn't, I thought it was just like a common thing people would say because I saw it in comics.
I've noticed that it's been for the past 4 or 5 years, people have been putting more in front of a word to make, like, it's more complicated, it's more simple. Instead of saying it's simpler, like they're using that to...
Those blasted idiots.
Blind dummies.
I like this crash landing, though. We're coming down hard.
Yeah.
So he was blinded. I forgot to mention that. In case you hadn't noticed, we're coming in for a landing. Florida, here we... Yeah, what was that? Some sort of flash all over the blasted planet. Holy cow, I'm blinded. Can't see the crummy controls. We're going to crash, Stretcho. Everybody brace yourselves. We're coming down hard. And, for as much grief as Ben gives Reed for turning him into the thing, he goes up in a spaceship again with him.
Yeah,
you didn't
true.
learn the first time. There's many occasions where they go in spaceships together after that. I guess he figures, well, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Because by now, in this era of the Fantastic Four. He's been turned back to regular Ben Grimm
And
half a dozen times.
he got really rough there for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, at one
So,
point, didn't he even change to where he couldn't think? He was more like monstrous
I
mentally
think
too.
so, yeah.
So
He should
yeah.
just be lucky he's not like that, I guess.
I know
He should
this
feel
was the
grateful.
cute way that they drew him. I like this one.
So they crash land in the Everglades. Reed, I can't believe it. We're alive. Apparently we are, Medusa, thanks to Ben. If he'd panicked for even an instant. Well, there's no sense dwelling on that, is there? Reed, have you noticed anything odd? Even if Stretch hasn't, I have now that I got my eyes back. Where's the airfield? Possibly we've landed some distance from our destination, Ben. Johnny, why don't you become the torch and take a look around and see if you can locate a highway or something similar?
So he torches up on the ground. I mean,
Yeah,
it
and he
is in the swamp, but
bursts
come
the
on.
swamp into flames and destroys hundreds of acres of habitable land
Habitat's
for
gone.
sensitive or endangered creatures. And he's wearing his stupid red costume. I can't remember why. I think Crystal gave it to him, or I can't remember why that came up.
It is a
But
bad.
it's not a.
It is a bad.
Well, and you want them all to be cohesive. Ben's even got his blue underwear on.
Well, and Medusa's in her
Purple.
Inhumans
It's
costume.
kind of a purplish pink.
Yeah.
That's my problem with. I like Medusa's powers, but she's a little too similar to Mr. Fantastic, who stretches his body. She kind of just does the same thing with her
With
hair.
her hair.
And she doesn't ever really. She doesn't get that many moments to shine. A lot of times they give her dialogue like this of like, "Oh, we're alive." Like Medusa hasn't said something in a while. I ever point out like what's happening in the panel instead of giving her own personality or something. But then again, Reed during this era is kind of defined by just being upset about Sue leaving. So
Right.
they're going through the Everglades and they see some people from. I think these are people from Carrollton, Kentucky here that are on vacation. And let's see, they're playing some banjo music or something menacingly.
Reed's got that
What
pretty
in the name
mouth.
of Aegon? Yeah, exactly. What in the name of Aegon? In Humans, I noticed that's one personality trait they give them because Crystal does that. They're always calling out, "By Aegon's sake!"
Yes.
Oh, for Aegon bless you. Something like that. Reed, what in the name of Aegon? Whoops, we've got company, Stretch. From the way they're acting up, they've got all the manners of a bunch of Yancey Streeters.
Right.
He breaks his stone hatchet on the thing's skull.
It's handy being the thing.
They're just about as good looking, too. Back off, buddies, and in case you need a little incentive, here. He gives them the old hot foot.
Jeez.
And then Reed and Medusa are doing very similar things with their contortions.
Reed becomes a tent.
Yeah, that's one thing. I think early on in the Fantastic Four, there are a couple of times, I'll have to look through my collections, but there are a couple of times where Mr. Fantastic becomes more like objects.
Yeah, this is sweet.
But then I think they pivot away from that, and most of the time he's more of a amorphous kind of, like he'll get long or wide or flat, but he doesn't become like a watering can or a table or something, because that's more
That's
of a
Plastic
plastic man.
Man.
I think that's how they distinguish those characters.
Need a bike? Plastic Man.
That's what I like about Plastic Man, is he's useful.
That's true.
He could be anything.
They
Reed's
make-
like, I can get really flat like a big kite. Can you turn into a kite, like with a string, and you're like, got
that's-
well, no, I just get really wide and flat.
That's true. Plastic Man, other than his face, I mean, his whole costume, and he looks like Plastic Man, but he is a kite.
That's the
That's
weird thing, is
true.
Reed is like the serious version of Plastic Man, because he's this distinguished scientist, and he has to deal with like ethical quandaries of invading parallel dimensions, and
Yeah.
Plastic Man's more of a goofy comedic character.
Yeah.
But I do like the way that they do some teamwork here. The Thing uses Reed as like a big net
Yeah,
and
that's
gathers
sweet.
up all these cavemen and just dumps them into like a blamed trampoline. Not a blasted one. This one's a blamed trampoline. He bounces them into this lake here. And then who would it be but the Watcher? I have to say, out of the different artists of the Watcher of this era or prior to Marvel, this is one of the uglier looking Watchers. And he's got a weird... It's like a toga, but it's got like a little window for his man boobs or whatever. It's weird. It's very jowly.
Yeah, it's not my favorite form of the Watchers.
And the brow bone, that's a weird touch. He's got a very heavy brow.
His head, and it's a comic, you look at it, it's visual art, but it makes you wonder what it would sound like if someone slapped him about that.
Some of the earlier Watchers are more like a big baby head or something.
Yeah,
this one,
yeah.
he's aged.
Yeah.
So of course he's here to remind us of his oath, that he's mainly a Watcher, except when he interferes, which he always does. The only time he would appear would be to break his oath that he feels so strongly about, except when he's constantly breaking it.
Exactly.
As in, everyone here remembers Baldy from FF 49, 50, 51, etc. And that's Roy Thomas's note here.
God.
So, I think his first appearance must have been the coming of Galactus, because first the Watcher, I think, makes it appear as though the sky is on fire. Like he put some kind of protective illusion around the Earth, so Galactus's herald, the Silver Surfer, won't see it and see it as a digestible planet or something. It's like barren, but that doesn't
spicy.
work. And then I think the conclusion of that story is he just gives Reed the ultimate nullifier, or he's like, I can't tell you what to, I think this is the same story. There's a few different Watcher stories that are similar, where he's like, I can't give you all the information, but if you go to my headquarters here, look for some really good technology that'll help you beat them. It's like,
if you see a button,
that's how you sleep at night, is by like basically solving the problem, but like making us solve some little cryptic description. That's dumb. They should call him the Interferer.
Yes.
The Watcher. Have you already forgotten my oath, Reed Richards? No, you're the only one that forgets a Watcher. A Watcher may only observe, not act, though it's true I've broken that oath in the past, and that I intend to break it again today.
Oh my God.
No, it was not I who changed the flow of time, but if you will be patient, I will show you how the deed occurred. It's so dumb, because it's like, he's got to make such a big deal about his oath. And I'm sure they're thinking, we don't care if you we've seen you break your oath. We're not going to tell the other Watchers if that's what you're worried about. You're the only one that's making a big deal about this. You just want a bunch of attention so you can all feel bad about how sacred your oath is, and you feel so guilty. It's like somebody who's on a diet that wants you to enable them to break their diet.
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
like, hey, I'm on a diet over here. Don't offer me that donut. I don't even have any donuts. Okay, my diet says I can have 3 donuts a day, now that you mention it. What are you you brought it up.
So
You
going
drove
to
us to
donuts
the
then,
Lord's
right?
Bakery. What the hell? But anyway, so why is the Watcher appearing to break his oath? What you will see before you on the monitor screen is a recreation of events which took place a few minutes ago. Minutes, but I said minutes,
no.
Reed Richards. Mere seconds before your shuttlecraft re-entered the Earth's atmosphere. This happened. Good Lord, that's the Baxter Building, our headquarters. Someone must have broken in, just like the fight before. That was FF-148, a pretty recent issue. Quite so, Jonathan. You will notice now just what section of your headquarters the intruder entered. That's the time device we captured from Dr. Doom years ago, way back in FF number 5, though Doc Doom's borrowed it once or twice since then. That's Roy's note. Again, quite true. Your unfortunate visitor seems to have accidentally activated the time device, throwing himself backward in time, where he apparently changed the course of history. Changed history? But the paradox is involved. It's unbelievable. Nevertheless, it is also true. And that's the reason for this jungle, those cavemen? Exactly. The point now is, what are you four willing to do, since you alone remain unaffected by these changes? Do we have any choice? The kid's right. We all know what we got to do, so let's do it.
So they were unaffected because they were in space.
I like how the watch is like, what are you guys willing to do? With I'm willing to break my oath. We all know. It's not much of an oath at this point. You're like the vegetarian that eats chicken.
Right.
George Washington almost slept here. So this is chapter 2.
Okay.
That's one thing about these giant sized. Even though we're, 8 pages in chapter 1, they break it into chapters.
Wow.
Makes it seem more epic, I guess. So the first sojourn back into time is to the Revolutionary War days.
And they partner up.
Yeah, so it's a 2 and 2 thing. So we'll see Medusa and the Thing in chapter 3. And with Ben Grimm's grating words still ringing in their ears, 2 members of the world's greatest fighting team suddenly find themselves whirling through time and space, finally coming to a stop here. Here being a small town in upstate New York in the fall of 1777, where Reed Richards and Johnny Storm will fight their most bizarre battle in a chapter of our story titled George Washington Almost Slept Here. So this story has George Washington in it.
Well, good thing he's got wooden teeth. Johnny could take him down.
Yeah, I'll just give him the old hot mouth. Everybody knows real teeth are invulnerable to bursts of flame in your mouth. It's those wooden ones you gotta watch out for. Reed, have I seen too many movies, or are we back in Revolutionary War days?
Right.
He knows immediately.
Right.
It just materialized there. He's like, this cobblestone dates back to 1777, if I remember my movies. It seems we are, son. Our time-traveling intruder must have landed here, and it's up to us to find him out first. Find him but first. Sometimes the ink's hard to read. So the weird thing is they crash land, and that's like caveman era. The second place they have to go is Revolutionary War, and then the third time period they have to visit is the 20s. It's like it's really heavily favoring eras of America on certain pivotal time periods.
Right.
Anyway, well, I guess it's a time machine, not a space machine, so it's not like he's going to go to Mongolia or something.
Well, true.
He'll be surprised, dude. Who do you think is the guy that broke into their lab and used Doc Doom's time machine and caused all this problem? Do you have any guess?
Is it Doc Doom?
Could be Doc Doom. Does Doc Doom wear loafers like that? I think he wears a full suit of armor last time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he would wear green pants. If he wore pants, fool. Doom has no time. He wears a mini skirt, as you know, over a full suit of armor.
Okay, I'm going to have to think.
So anyway, they're trying to blend in. So what do? Is beat up 2 American soldiers and steal their clothes. And they fit really well. My apologies, gentlemen, but we'd be fairly conspicuous in our costumes, and just 2 of the boys and their duds. Good thinking, Reed. The question now is what happens next. I have a theory about that, Johnny. Whatever our time traveler did must have been relatively drastic. Otherwise, it couldn't have affected our present world so potently. So here's the backstory to this situation that they have to fix. They go into this tavern. Reed doesn't answer, but for the next moment, this guy's talking to some very colonial-looking forefather types. Captured by the redcoats, I tell ya. 'Tis the God's truth, and you all know me for an honest man. Happened at Owl's Bridge, it did. The general was out with a handful of soldiers when the redcoats caught him. 'Tis a sad day for the country, lads. A sad day indeed. The general, Reed, do you think? Don't jump to conclusions, lads. Still, we'd better look into it. So, moments later in the corral behind the tavern, say, Reed.
Fanboy.
They hang horse thieves, you know. Yeah, he's very reverent of the General Washington. They hang horse thieves, you know, Johnny says. I'm afraid we don't have time for niceties, Johnny. Of course, if you want to stay behind. Not a chance, brother-in-law. I can't help but wonder why doesn't Johnny just fly?
Well.
And as he's demonstrated so many times in the past rescuing people, he can fly and be in flame on mode, but make his hands stick out so he's not going to burn people. Just carry Reed.
Way to respect somebody else's
Or use
clothes.
Reed as a giant kite.
Or
glide.
Exactly.
Yeah, he just rips the guy's clothes. They don't have unstable molecules to stretch. So, anyway, he says, not a chance, brother-in-law. I wouldn't give up playing Paul Revere for the world. Come on, Reed, let's ride. He's really getting into this colonial spirit, Johnny is. So they go to this redcoat fort, Now we infiltrate, as only Mr. Fantastic can. It seems Johnny and I have been lucky. Those are definitely redcoats below. And if my memory of certain historical paintings serves me well, he has memories of historical paintings. It's like, I remember that painting I saw of history, and that third log from the left was a little
That's it.
weak. And you know,
Oh my God.
I feel like this giant log fort would be pretty susceptible to Johnny's power.
Well, if it's a famous thing that they have to do, like just from the clues now, it's like, oh, are they doing the ride of Paul Revere?
They're not reenacting something. They're trying to set history right. So, like,
Okay.
George Washington did not get kidnapped by the Redcoats. They're trying to remedy that. So I think that's why they're trying to lay.
Okay.
Because if they just burn the whole fort down, it'll just irrevocably harm time. They're trying to set things to the way they were supposed to happen.
Okay.
Even though that now it's happened this way, and they're just freeing him. If they really wanted to have a clean slate, you think
They
they'd
go
go
back.
before he was kidnapped and prevent that from happening. But even that would change things slightly if we're going by the butterfly effect rules. Is
True.
even the attempted capture of Washington being interrupted by two superpowered people from 1974 would be kind of jarring.
That's true.
Anyway, that's why time travel things are so goofy. This kind of reminds me of the second season of Loki. I don't know if you watched that
Oh,
on Disney Plus,
yeah.
but there's a lot of like that whole story arc they've been doing the past couple of years with Kang is very like, oh, time travel this and setting the time
Yeah.
streams, and there's actually a character they're going to encounter that is kind of that vein. So anyway. The man with them is General George Washington of the American Revolutionary Army. I trust you'll be comfortable during your short stay with us, Washington. Perhaps we'll have time for a chat or two before we hang you for the traitor you are. I'm certain we have nothing to say to each other, Colonel. As you want it, General. Though perhaps you'll be more amenable to discussion after a night or two in the stockade. Good evening, my dear boy. Pleasant dreams.
Oh,
Ooh, giant-sized Spider-Man and Dracula. That might
Dracula
be a fun one
looks
to track
really
down.
intense on that one.
Yeah, he's got almost cat-like features.
Yeah, nice.
So Johnny totally wrecks this poor colonial guy's clothes by
Ugh.
bursting into flame. I mean, I guess he doesn't want to spend the time to take them off. So he blasts a hole through the fort wall, a perfectly circular hole. And they try to shoot him with a cannon, but he can melt their cannonballs before they harm
throw
them.
him back. Yikes.
Well, yeah, he's throwing some fireballs at them. Meanwhile, Reed's gonna slip through the bars. I do like the way they try George
This
Washington.
is a nice panel, yeah.
Yeah, the detail is pretty good. Not a demon, General. A friend. My partner and I intend to get you out of here, and from the sounds coming from outside, I think we're close to succeeding. This is most unusual, sir. I'm not accustomed to being shifted about like baggage, but I suppose I haven't any real choice in the matter, have I? As an acquaintance of mine once said, necessity never made a good bargain. That was Ben Franklin, wasn't it, General? Why, yes. Do you know Benjamin? In a manner of speaking. Yeah, it's goofy.
Although I think that of all the founding fathers, Ben Franklin would be the one to embrace meeting somebody from the future.
Probably, yeah. George
was
Washington, they
kind of the
really,
weirdo.
they kind of make George Washington like above it all. Like he's not bothered or threatened by his captivity, because that's the tricky thing is they have this historical figure. They're trying to treat him with reverence, but he's also like at the mercy of the redcoats. So they're trying to give him the stiff upper lip kind of thing. But it's like, I don't know, you're about to die, dude. I think you would
Yeah.
be a little more upset. I must be going mad. First a gentleman whose body stretches like New England taffy, and now a youth of flame. You know, a youth of flame. That's how colonists would describe him. Look at that youth of flame. And this man, his body's like New England taffy.
Taffy Man.
New England taffy.
Youth of Flame. Youth of Flame would be a great band name.
Maybe. He's a handy sort of lad to have around. So Reed's trying to talk him down and be like, look, you probably think this is Satan, but he's just a guy in a ketchup and mustard costume. He's just a youth of flame.
You silly Youth of Flame.
Johnny, that clearing just ahead will be fine. We can leave General Washington and he can find his way back to town without too much difficulty. But, sir, surely you'll be returning with me? That might not be a good idea, General, considering that most people are pretty superstitious and might not understand a fellow like me who can burn away manacles with just a wave of his hand. Am I right, Reed? I'm afraid so. We'd be mobbed, probably hung as witches. Sadly enough, there's truth in what you say, but please, sir, tell me where we come from and how we got our powers. I'm sorry, General. It's better you never know. How about you, General Washington? How'd the Redcoats capture you, anyway? It's most mysterious, young man. If I were as superstitious as some of my countrymen regrettably are, I'd say it were magic. I was on my way to a camp south of here, crossing the Owl Bridge, when something abruptly appeared before me. A man, I think. Yes, a man accompanied by a blinding flash of light, which caused my horse to shy and throw me. And people in a very similar color scheme to you came and captured me, actually. So that kind of catches us up. I guess the person materializing startled his horse. And it's that small change.
Wow.
It doesn't say what happened to the mysterious figure once he materialized. I guess maybe he was gone. It says, both my attaché and myself were knocked unconscious and lay in that state until the British and their mercenary Hessians discovered us by the roadside and summarily made us prisoners. Later, my aide escaped, and that was the person they heard talking about his capture. So they set that right, and boom, they're gone. A hushed pause, the rustle of evening wind through towering trees, and suddenly where three once stood, there stands only one, and the rest, of course, is history. Everything is set right.
They could draw that complicated hairdo, but they always do Sue so bad.
Yeah, they should give her that hairdo. The Great Grimsby is chapter 3. So we're going to the 1920s here. Look at his eyes on that panel. In a place elsewhere in time, a Florida swamp in what was 1974, to be precise, three vaguely human-like beings stand watching a monitor screen, their faces reflecting varying degrees of concern. The silence stretches until one of them breaks it in his own inimitable fashion. Hey, what's the big idea? How come Stretch and Hothead get to go back in time while me and Medusa stand around cooling our heels like a pair of pinch hitters? You ask me, it ain't fair. As a matter of fact, it's downright discriminating. Ben, you're hardly being rational. I'm sure the Watcher has a very good reason why he sent only Reed and Johnny back. Though I confess I would like to hear it. How about it, Baldy? Like I said before, what's the big idea? He's like, all right, settle down. I'll send you back to the 1920s because I know you like Humphrey Bogart and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You like smoking cigars and being a manly man. So he's going to go to Chicago, 1928, 1 year before the beginning of the Great Depression, a depression which will not occur unless you catch our time traveler before he stops it.
What is the deal? 2 times now we've read about time traveling into Chicago.
It's a hub of time travel. You didn't know that?
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's where the regional time travel. So it's like the airport hubs. It's time travel hub. So this is actually the second time we've seen the Fantastic Four specifically travel through time to confront one of these awooga wooga looking cars. Because She-Hulk reenacts the Action Comics cover of Superman by lifting one of those things up at some point.
That's right. Yes, when
But that's not till the 80s. The John Burns run.
Yeah.
So that's when they confront Stalin piloting that mech. Remember that episode we did? He was in that big robot suit, but it was really like a clone or something. Anyway. Hey you, the jerk in the rock costume. I'd have bust you one for walking in front of my car. You could have got me killed. Rock costume, huh? Come here and say that, pal, and I'll... Ben, no. We can't afford to get mixed up in a street fight. Not now. There's too much at stake. So he's like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't kill human beings in the 20s with my superhuman strength.
Change history? Oh, whoa.
Yeah, these transitional panels are really weird looking. For several seconds, the thing's orange-scaled form seems to blur, to melt and flow like warm wax losing its former shape, until, where once stood a monster, now stands a very bewildered man. I don't believe it. I'm Ben Grimm. I'm a human. Medusa, don't you see? I'm human.
Look how big his underpants are on him.
Well, he shrunk. He's like, I'm wearing a skirt like Doc Doom. So Medusa's like, we got to break into this J&B clothes. It's after hours, and we got to borrow some clothes so we blend in. Very similar story beat to the last chapter, except they're in the lost generation, as Medusa points out, which is weird because the Inhumans, if you remember, are introduced early in the Fantastic Four run, and I think their civilization, Adelon, is like underground in the Himalayas. It's like, what do you know about the lost generation in American pop culture? You live underground in the Himalayas. And you're like, oh yeah, this would be appropriate attire for Chicago 1928 or wherever they are. Whatever year they said it was.
Yeah, true.
But whatever. She's wearing her fringe. He's got a little pork pie hat on. Is that what you call that style hat? And he's still eager to mix with these 20s people. He fits right in, Ben Grimm does, because he watches a lot of those noir movies. I think there's a couple panels early on where he's got a framed picture of Humphrey Bogart or something in his room in the Baxter Building.
Oh yeah.
So they go up to this club here, see if he can lead us to a speakeasy. Oh, I get it. Woman's intuition, huh? Say, fella, know where a guy can get a drink? Maybe for a $5. It's yours. Then, mister, I'm your man. $5 in this era was $5,000 in 2024 money.
Yeah.
Approximately. Soon after Ben and Medusa have followed their newfound contact down a half dozen gloomy streets, and does he even have $5? He was just wearing his underwear.
Exactly. And they were just complaining about the price of things.
Yeah, who is it? Harry with a guy. If Harry vouches for you, you must be an all right Joe. But just in case you ain't, let me give you a little warning. Don't bother, pal, I get the picture. Ben, it's incredible. Yeah, like something out of a grade B movie. I keep expecting Edward G. Robinson to pop up with a gun in his hand. So tell me, Medusa, how come you had us come here? A hunch, Ben. As an Inhuman, my psychic senses are stronger than yours. That's a little offhanded thing of like, we couldn't explain why they would go to the exact right place they need to go to find a solution to the problem. Because to my knowledge so far, having read, not a ton, but I've read about 150 Fantastic Fours from the very first one onward so far this year, and they never touch on any psychic abilities of the Inhumans or like having more intuition. It's one thing that comes up here, and it's never revisited. Medusa's not known for having psychic abilities. They're just like putting a little patch job on that plot hole.
Interesting.
Maybe I'll be proved wrong later on.
We do have some early Inhumans books.
I know.
I
found them. I was doing inventory of our collection. We got about 3 or 4 of them. They're early issues too. I'm not sure how many different titles they had, because one of them is labeled like Black Bolt and the Inhumans are featuring the Inhumans, or Inhumans featuring Black Bolt, something like that. And then one has a slightly different title, I think. So they might have been 2 different miniseries or something like that. But I've never been a big Inhumans fan. I kind of like their aesthetic. Like the character designs are cool, but the whole mythology of like they have a weird mist that turns it. There's gene manipulation. They're not mutants.
Yeah.
They also have like a subclass of slaves that like makes their whole and then Maximus the Mad's like always taking over. Like just execute him. After the 3rd time he takes over, that's enough for you. We're done with you anyway. It's no wonder the Inhuman show wasn't very good, because honestly the source material is not that strong, I don't think.
I went through a period of time where I really, really got into them.
I like them, but I feel like they're better as like featured in another character's story, as like a place they visit and as supplemental characters.
Yeah, I could see that.
So if you're wondering who caused all this ruckus of time chaos, holy cow, Psychic is right, pretty lady. Look, it's got to be him, the guy we've been searching for, the jerk who stumbled into our time machine, Willie Lumpkin, our mailman. What? Come on, buddy, playtime's over. We're taking you back to 1974, where you belong. What? Say, pal, get your paws off my buddy. The runt is one of Big Al's boys, see? He's giving us the straight dope on the stock market, see? So beat it, you mug, or we'll have to get rough, see? He says C after. They went a little overboard. They're like, how do
Funny.
people in the 20s talk? They just ended everything with C
C.
and a question mark. I got news for you, half brain. Nobody gets rough with Ben Grimm, even if he ain't the blasted thing. See? The blasted thing, the blamed thing, the blasted thing.
That's awesome.
So Ben gets to punch him, and Medusa gets to wrap somebody up in their hair and bonk their heads together. Bappo.
Nice move.
Look at that guy's face. Ooh, that one looked like it hurt.
Oh,
Willie Lumpkin is like so confused, but it's like, you were just giving him stock tips.
that's crazy.
So he's collaborating with the criminals. Maybe he's just trying to survive, but he doesn't say much, and he's just seems kind of along for the ride. He causes so much trouble.
Did
Willie
this,
Lumpkin, but-
Was this an accident? Did he accidentally activate
He
it?
didn't mean to do it. Please, Ben, we have to hurry. We don't want to be here when the Watcher... Gotcha, kid. Okay, Willie, let's move. So they get into this old car. And they're, they got the Tommy guns coming out
Oh
of the...
my God.
It's like something out of Batman.
That's
We're
an
under
intense
attack.
panel.
Cracko, pa-crack. Get your heads down, both of you. We're gonna crash.
Whoa.
Ben, are you all right? The way your head snapped forward. Ben, answer me. By Aegon's jeans, answer me.
Oh,
Aegon.
turning back.
Yeah, that's a cool sequence. Instead of just having his awkward head
Head, yeah.
get Yul Brennerized into orange big brow. Like, where does the brow come from in this
Yeah.
transformation?
Nice.
We're going reverse. Human. And then he's looking a little bit
Ew.
like the King and I.
Ooh,
And then his
then
eyebrows. Then the brow comes out. I guess it's there's the feint. They're like, your eyebrows will get 3 times as thick and become protrude until eventually goes around his whole head. It's like
Ew, it's like-
bangs and brows. It's like a bowl
Yeah.
cut.
Ooh.
So anyway, he rips out of the car, and they're like, holy crap, a big rock monster. It's like something out of a moving picture, excuse me. So the thing had said, this is like something out of a grade B flick.
You know this drawing? I know the steam is coming from the machine gun, but it looks like it's coming from his pants.
His underwear is steaming. Turning the thing lets off a lot of heat and steam. It's not a odorless transformation.
Medusa's like, oh, bad.
Why does it smell like old hot dogs in here?
Oh.
So he picks up part of the cement and apparently murders them. I don't know how you'd survive that. He acts as only one man can. The orange-scaled man mounting the thing. Womp. Ben, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything, Medusa. Let's just get back to the present before I get sick.
Jeez.
Chapter 4, Time Enough for Death. So they all are reunited with, including Willie Lumpkin here. And this is kind of a highbrow page. Time is the image of eternity, a philosopher named Diogenes said that circa 200 AD. No doubt he meant to deal with concepts more profound than those which concern us here, but we think Diogenes would have understood our heroes' sense of horror as they gaze at the world in which they suddenly find themselves. A world which seems apart from time itself. A world that seems to exist in some frightening eternal stasis, some terrifying timeless eternity. Reed, something's wrong. This isn't the world we left. It's some sort of Salvador Dali nightmare. So this kind of reminds me again of Loki 2, where there's like the place out of time or some like fortress at the end of time.
The only hero that... Oh.
Yeah, Tempest. So this is... I love the character design.
Yeah.
And when I read this in black and white before I opened up this issue, I never would have guessed he was like a silvery, grayish white, off-white kind of color. Seeing it in black and white, I'm like, he must be like red and orange.
Right.
That's one thing that's fun about reading it in black and white first and then looking at the panels. It's like, wow, the color can change the tone, the mood so much. So anyway, here's the whole point of this adventure, the inciting incident. Tempest is behind it all. It's not really Willie Lumpkin. He's just a pawn in Tempest's plot here. I am Tempest, and I am master of the world in which you now exist. I am Tempest, and I hunger for death. I am Tempest. I thought he would say, see? I'm blamed Tempest. Since the beginning of eternity have I remained here, enduring without life, enduring without growth, enduring as a rock endures, passing through the decades, through the centuries, through the millennia, existing without change and thus without meaning. At last I have had enough. Time itself has come to bore me, and thus time itself must end. So he's bored, and he
Okay,
wants everything
that's-
to die because he's bored.
Petulant child syndrome.
To ensure the end of time, I lured the human you call William Lumpkin into your childish time portal. Your childish time portal. Why'd you need it if you think it's so
Right.
poorly made or so simplistic? Had my plan succeeded, the paradoxes caused by his actions would have climaxed in total catastrophe, both on your time level and on mine. William Lumpkin's actions would have uprooted the tree of time, causing untold chaos, mixing age and age, eon and eon. Now I must use other means to achieve that end. Essentially, I must destroy you all. Over my dead body, overgrown icicle. I guess I
That's
missed that
bad.
dialogue when I read it in black and white. That would have indicated that he's a big ice giant.
Oh, right.
I do love this transformation. Way cooler than the
That's
thing to human
insane.
transformation. I love him running into this blast and
Yeah.
it breaking him apart.
Johnny's face.
Ben, don't. We have no concept of his power, his abilities. Ah, bunk. There ain't nothing he can toss at me. I ain't already. Ooh, zit. Wind coming at me like a crummy hurricane. That's another good little fill-in
Yeah.
word for blamed, blasted, and crummy.
Yeah.
Can't stand up to it. Blowing me back, tearing into me. What's happening? I'm breaking apart. Did you see that, Reed? Did you see what Tempest did to him? Ben's barely breathing. He's gotten so old, so old. Get
Oh,
back,
no.
Johnny. You're too close to the ray.
There's a lot of motion in those drawings. Whoa.
I know, this is one of my favorite parts, is seeing their
Whoa.
their decrepit versions. And enjoy an exciting romantic look. Impressive anytime. Remember this ad? We've seen it in other comics.
Yes.
You can get these very convincing
Sideburns.
sideburns and goatee.
And yuck.
But Reed's frantic warning comes too late as Johnny Storm lifts his suddenly graying head and cries out from a mouth abruptly withered and dry. You gotta stop him, Reed. You've gotta stop him before he kills us. You've got to try. I did not wish it to happen this way, human. There is no grace in such an ending, no tragedy, only pathos. You're mad, Tempest, insane. If I don't stop you, one of the others will. Which of them, human? Which will have the strength when the very essence of his life is drawn from his body as a leech draws its victim's blood? Would it not be better for you to accept your fate? Is life so precious, is existence so dear that one must cling to it so desperately? Yes, no matter what happens, we must go on. We must go on. We will, Reed. On my oath as an inhuman, we will. There's an inhuman oath, too? I hope it's not as easily disregarded as the Watchers. There seem to be no consequences for breaking his oath constantly. Yet at that precise instant, as Reed collapses against Medusa's restraining locks, I don't get it. One moment I can hardly lift my pinky, and the next I'm my beautiful blue-eyed self again. Beautiful blue-eyed. That's another
That's
good film.
another
Aunt
one, yeah.
Petunia, Yancey Street, beautiful blue-eyed, blasted, blamed, crummy.
Yeah.
Just put them in a hat, mix them up, and you got the thing.
Insert wherever.
Clobbering time, of course.
Clobbering time, yep.
Clobberin time.
Yep.
You're not the only one, partner. We're both back to normal. But look at Reed and Medusa. So this is how they managed to subdue Tempest.
Whoa.
They're as old as we were and growing older by the second. They can't last much longer, Ben. We have to do something before they die from sheer old age. The only trouble is I can't figure out what. Then you ain't got the brains I thought you had, Torchy. Don't you see? Tempest can only keep two of us aging at a time.
Ah.
What a weird power set. I guess it's just the amount of energy he's able to expend, but it's like, this is Tempest. What are your powers, Tempest?
Wow.
I can rapidly age two people at a time. Oh, why that? Could you just do one and age them all the way to death? No, I prefer to do two at a time and age them just to the brink of death, and then Then I will turn my attention elsewhere.
To the
and two
next
other people will get a preview of their aged selves. I won't actually do any permanent damage to you, of course, but it'll freak you out. So they beat him up, essentially. It's clobbering time. We get our big kapow. It doesn't really phase him, though.
This is cool, though.
Yeah,
I like
that's
how
a
he
great
grabs.
panel. He's holding on to him there, too.
Whap, whap, whap.
So individually, they're not able to put up much of a fight. They can't really damage him.
But as
of
we've
course,
learned from the
the
comics,
power of teamwork.
Yep.
Which is, the moral of the story of most team-based comics. Is that, it's almost as if more than one person, can do more than one person. It's very, it's simple
so
on its
interesting.
surface, but it's easier said than done, I guess, because they all have quirky personalities.
That's true.
While you were busy ranting, Tempest, my friends and I worked out a plan. Not a very sophisticated plan, I admit, but a workable one nonetheless. Release me, you abysmally stupid clown. You abysmally stupid clown. Release me at once.
I'm going to use that at work.
It sounds like a Doc Doom line. You abysmally
Yes.
stupid clown. As I say, not a sophisticated plan, but the way we saw it, since you wanted to destroy yourself so badly, you wouldn't really mind how you went, would you? This method is based on an old Earth adage each of us learned as a child. Do you remember it, Johnny? I sure do, Reed, if it's the one I think you mean. Doesn't it go something like, the bigger they are, the harder they fall? Something like that, Johnny. Something like that. No! Barash. His head
Nice.
shatters off.
Wow.
And when the rubble has settled and the dust has ceased to fly, gone, finished, it's almost as though he never truly existed. Still, he did exist, and we have to remember that. We have to remember that a part of Tempest still exists in each of us, and that his kind of despair never really dies, only sleeps until something happens to waken it once more.
Ooh.
I hate to interrupt your pretty speech, Stretcho, but something tells me our troubles ain't over by a long shot. So now that Tempest is dead, I guess, they murdered him, his whole realm is crumbling beneath their feet.
Oh,
They get
no.
sucked into a whirlpool, a blamed one probably. And then they're shot out in a blasted prehistoric jungle. No, it's the Baxter building. That's just what he's guessing. We succeeded. Tempest failed. The world isn't destroyed, and everything's back as it was before Willie Lumpkin fell in Doc Doom's time machine.
Oh.
Then all of this was my fault. It wasn't just a dream. If it was, then we all had the same nightmare, Willie boy. And if you don't believe me, ask the Watcher over there. I assure you, Mr. Lumpkin, this was no dream. It was all terribly real, and almost catastrophic, to use the term Tempest employed. So you knew about that Tempest Joker all along, huh? Of course, am I not the Watcher? If you knew, why didn't you warn us? For the same reason that I knew, because I am a Watcher, and a Watcher
my
may
gosh.
ultimately only observe. I broke my oath once in informing you of the disaster and helping you correct certain mistakes. To do more would have been a truly grave offense against my oath, and so I remained silent. Just as you must remain silent, Willie. He says, I'll never tell, Mr. Watcher. And so the Watcher wipes his mind. He has the power to wipe
He knows.
people's
Willie's
minds.
weak.
He's like, what else you got to talk about? This is the most exciting thing that's ever going to happen to you. You're going to tell everybody on your mailer.
Oh, yeah. Look at how much he came alive and was so energetic when he was riding
He
in
was
the
working with
limo,
gangsters.
In the limo with May and Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just,
Gabbing.
Yep. He would have told everybody.
So, done. Thus my business here is ended, and I take my leave, for there are other worlds to watch, and a Watcher must observe them all. I thought there were Watchers for every world or universe or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. Maybe he's the only Watcher.
Well, he
So
needs
that's why it's so
another one.
easy to freaking break his oath. Well,
He made
it's
it
more
up.
of a rule I set for myself. But I'm very disappointed in myself. And things wrap up, and Ben's wondering, what about that suborbital shuttlecraft we left in the middle of that Florida swampland? Who do you suppose is going to have to pay the bill to truck that crate back to Cape Canaveral? Tempest? Willie Lumpkin? Or me?
Back to money.
Yep, back to where we started. And I think we'll be all right to take a look at this one really quick. We'll go through it pretty quickly, because I can't resist finishing up this issue. Look how different the thing looks.
Wow.
He's almost
He's very smooth,
pineapple-y
right?
or something.
Yeah.
Twilight in New York, at the skyscraper headquarters of America's greatest superheroes, is all is quiet until suddenly, unexpectedly, the stillness is shattered by a pulse-stopping explosion from the lab of Mr. Fantastic. Suffering cats! Look at Reed's lab. What happened? Something must have gone wrong with his experiment, Johnny, but where is he? You two stay back. I'll shove that junk aside and see if he's under it. Nostalgic note, just for kicks, we thought we'd reprint the very first mind-boggling meeting the FF had with the Wondrous Watcher from the pages of FF number 13.
Ah.
So they're getting to the bottom of it, but
Ew.
suddenly, Torch, come back, I'm
Ew.
okay. Got to get him before the fumes overpower him. So it turns out that Reed was experimenting with a new type of energy for rocket propulsion, and it proved even more powerful than I hoped it would be. He's in his protective stretch suit with the horrific skull-like helmet.
Oh, he looks like he's made out of the same thing as the Thing.
He kind of looks like Black Manta from Aquaman. Oh, Reed, you might have been killed. Yeah, what's even worse, he might have killed us. I like how sassy the Thing is. In this earlier era, I mean, he's still sassy in the 70s, but in this 60s thing, there's a darker tone to it, or he's very self-interested. Like, it's not so much that he's self-pitying because he's ugly, he's a monster, blah, 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 or he's inconvenienced by helping out. It's more like he's borderline, like, I'm the only thing that matters. Like, it really makes you question, is he even going to come through for the other three sometimes?
Oh, right.
Because he's so disturbed or so unwell.
Yeah.
He looks so short there, too.
I know.
Quit clowning, Ben. I've discovered a booster fuel powerful enough to enable us to catch up with the Reds in the race to the moon. This is also
It's
one thing that you'll see in the 60s era comics that I've been rereading.
Wow.
A lot of Soviet references or space race references. I have long suspected that they developed their powerful rocket thrust by utilizing the energy of the burned-out meteor, so I recently explored an American meteor crater in Arizona to satisfy myself. I skipped a part. You see, a meteor fell in Siberia some time ago, flattening 100 square miles of forest. That's actually a real thing, I think, the Tunguska event.
Yeah.
This story took place well before the recent and well-publicized détente between the U.S. and Russia. Isn't it nice to make new friends? Roy, a little commentary from 1974, I guess. I brought pieces of meteorite back to the lab with me for intensive study, and then I discovered it. He just stared at it with binoculars on. I was right. There is limitless energy contained within this fragment from outer space. And now I've found a way to harness that energy. All I have to do is expose this iron bar to the correct radiation, and it will furnish the power to send a huge rocket straight to the moon. This means America may win the space race. By next week, as soon as I've finished converting our experimental rocket, that's where I'll be, in the mysterious blue area of the moon.
Ben, just one cotton scratching minute.
Chicken scratching minute. Just one chicken scratching minute there, pal. What do you mean where you'll be? This is the Fantastic Four, not a solo act. We're going with you. So I guess he is very team-oriented. That kind of contradicts what I was saying, but you're outvoted, boss man. So this is a reoccurring thing with Reed. He's like, I don't want to put anyone else at risk, even though that's exactly what created the Fantastic Four. He's so scarred by that he's like, I'll do it myself, but they insist on accompanying him.
And
I do like this.
Him? Yeah.
This is more Plastic Man-esque to me. Scrunching him down into this little thing.
Shoving him in glass beaker.
But at that moment, on the other side of the globe, behind the Iron Curtain, another strange experiment takes place.
Whoa!
That is it. You must never forget, when the red light flashes, you turn the escape hatch wheel. Only a genius such as Ivan Kragoff, could have trained a gorilla to operate a spaceship. There's the blue light. Quickly, put on your magnetic shoes. So he trains apes and gorillas and baboons, that sort of thing. He trains them using colored lights to put on magnetic shoes and turn a wheel and things like that. Well done, my monstrous slave. Now here's your reward. See that you remember your lessons while I go and practice for the other two schoolmates. Stay back. No food for you yet, Comrade Baboon. Comrade Baboon would be a good band name, too. It is important to me that you remain hungry. I want you to be mean, vicious, dangerous. And so the baboon shoots a Tommy gun. Good, good. Your heart is filled with hatred. Soon I may allow you to fire your weapons at a real target. This is what I think the Fantastic Four movies need to embrace, is the goofiness. It's very
Yes.
pulpy and like corny sci-fi and over the top.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
They need to get, it needs to be like a winking, nudgy kind of kitschy kind of
Yes.
thing and not take itself too seriously. Though that's a pretty intense panel there.
But you embrace all of this, even the intensity. It's gonna be a great movie, you know.
You know, that's
Have
the cool
everything.
thing about the Fantastic Four is it can be super campy and then pivot into like, oh, the universe is ending, or you know, like
Yeah,
very
almost
serious,
horror.
yeah, it's a lot of monstrous mutations and
Yeah.
demons, and that's one cool thing about them is they'll fight aliens, demons, and
Other
mystic
dimensions, time travel.
yeah, giant insects, mole men.
Doom.
Doom. Finally, you, the most brainless of all. But you don't need brains for your work. Here's your reward. For you are the only orangutan in the world who can use tools and repair any machine at my command. Why is he so brainless if he can fix
If you
things?
get right.
At last, my crew of apes is ready, and now we go to the moon to claim it for the communist empire. So he's got, it's like the Soviet version of the Fantastic Four is a man in a pink fur-lined jumpsuit and 3 monkeys.
With a magnificent skullet.
Yes, very, oh my gosh. He's still got the dark eyebrows.
Well, of course.
So while the Fantastic Four have their own branded rocket, we get to see Ivan Kragoff here, which I would love to see them do this character in the movies.
Yes.
But just pull it off where it's not too corny. Because I feel like in the Fantastic Four movies from the 2000s, they went too quickly into Doom. The first one I think was Doom, and then the second one Silver Surfer and Doom makes an appearance. It's like, use some of the minor villains and just make them compelling, like Diablo.
Right, right. Give this guy a little
Red
backstory,
Ghost,
a little.
Pink Ghost is really what he looks like. But, you know, Mole Man could be cool if you do it the right way.
He could be really scary.
Danny DeVito as Mole Man?
Yeah,
That would be
good. Although he's been the Penguin.
Why not Mole Man? That was DC.
Yeah.
Well, who else could be Mole Man?
Oh, good point.
Ed Asner? Is he still alive?
No,
Well,
just missed it.
So we get, he strapped himself into this bed to take off, I guess. The mighty Fantastic Four derived their great powers by being bombarded with cosmic rays. That is why I have designed my ship of transparent ceramic plastic, like the nose cone of a missile, so that the cosmic rays will bombard me too. My ship is completely unshielded against the cosmic rays. Whatever dose of rays the Fantastic Four received, I shall get an even greater dose. For I shall not turn and flee from the rays as they did. I, Ivan Kragoff, shall become even more powerful than the Fantastic Four, and so shall my apes. Together we shall be lords of the solar system. And now it begins. We are passing through the cosmic belt. I can feel the rays. They shall give me by power. Power! Power! Part 2, Menace of the Moon.
No.
Look at that weird hair.
Yes.
It gives her a big head.
And it looks
It's
like
it
she's
looks
got a lot of
plastered down, like it's
Yeah,
a thick
but it's-
layer of
it's
gelled
like-
down hair.
what split ends. It looks
I also
weird.
like the way they drew and inked the Human Torch to not have like much of facial features. It kind of makes them look cooler to me.
Yeah.
Just the hint of like that's where his eyes would be.
Yeah.
So they're going to go investigate, you know, how he can burst into flames because there are special gases and artificial atmosphere that he creates around him. So he gets to go see the Soviet-branded ship here. This gets kookier all the time. No one's aboard except that one guy and a trio of apes.
Trio.
And so, strange, you look exactly the same. No one has changed. But that can't be. The rays must have affected us. They must have. What is it? Why are you gaping that way? What is wrong? No, it can't be. You have changed. Your strength has increased 100-fold. But
gosh.
stay back till I decide what to do with you.
Yeah,
So
like
the
a
monkeys
Tommy
notice
gun.
him.
The Tommy gun's not going to hurt their spaceship.
Yeah, exactly. You can just shoot that off in your craft. But yeah, all the monkeys notice Johnny flying around in the background, but this super genius scientist can't be bothered to notice
Oh
it.
my God.
This gun will keep you at bay till... Wait, the gun, what's happening to it? It's changing. It's altering its form. It's turning into the baboon. There's some of that Plastic Man transformation.
Yes.
He too was affected by the cosmic rays. He now has the power to change his shape, to turn into a copy of anything. It is more than
amazing.
I dared hope for. But what about the orangutan and me? Then at that moment, Ivan Kragoff also notices the Human Torch, and the orangutan sees the torch too. There's someone out there. That is what excited the gorilla before. What are you doing? Your arm, magnetic rays are coming from it. You've become magnetized somehow. By pointing his right arm at the figure outside, the orangutan repelled him, just as a depolarized magnet would repel a sheet of tin.
Oh no.
Got to make it back to the ship. Got to tell the others. I wonder if that orangutan's ever faced off against Magneto. That would be a cool
That would be
battle of the
interesting.
magnets.
That would be interesting.
Meanwhile, they're going to go check out the blue side of the moon. You know, the blue region. Moments later, as the great ship slowly descends to the moon's surface, we did it. The energy pile worked. We're landing smack in the center of the mysterious blue area. And there's the reason. It photographs blue. There's a long dead city below us. The remains of some ancient civilization. Man isn't first on the moon.
It's the Inhumans.
It's weird to think about how, as a kid, I didn't think about this. As a kid growing up in the 90s, you learn about when the first space expeditions happened in history class and on TV and things like that.
I watched
But reading these, that's what I'm saying, is reading these, which, the Fantastic Four started in 1961, I believe. This, I didn't realize until recently, I didn't put two and two together, that many of their adventures happened before the moon landing.
Oh,
even
right.
happened. So they actually do an issue after that happens in, 1969? Where they acknowledge that. So it's funny that, like, I guess it's
Wow.
a cool thing in pop culture where, like, we had fictional characters going up into space, or space is turning them into monsters, but, like, we really hadn't explored
any
it
bit
in
of
any
space.
meaningful way, or sent people up there in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Until pretty long into, almost a decade into the comics existing. Maybe we'll have to do that moon landing issue at some point. It's in one of the essential collections. I love this movement that he gives. It looks like he's ice skating or something.
Yeah.
So
What the
Reed
heck?
gets all tall to kind of like scout out what's going on and look for the Red Ghost ship. Meanwhile, they're sort of exploring this dead city. Look at this. It's some kind of an ultra-modern house, and it looks as though someone's living in it. It's not in ruins like the rest of the place. For crying out loud, looks like I just came along for the ride. The only time anyone notices me is when they need a hunk of muscle to save them. I must be losing my marbles. Could have sworn I saw that rock move. I'll just kick the blamed thing out of my way. Hey, what the heck? For the love of Pete, it turned into a baboon. There's more of them. They must be the three apes the torch saw. Let go, blast you. Take your hairy paws off me before I smash your empty heads together. Enough, my pet. Now leave the grotesque American to me. You've seen but a fraction of our power. Now you will face the most unbeatable foe of all as you are defeated by the Red Ghost. Red Ghost, what do you think you're doing, scaring a kid? I'll show you how worried I am about... Hey, what? Ha! Now you know. This is the power I got from the cosmic rays. I can make my body unsolid, like a ghost's. And you cannot hurt that which you cannot touch. Except he can still pick things up, apparently.
Right.
So he's kind of like Shadowcat, I guess. He's Kitty Pryde.
Right.
Long before she ever existed. So the Thing, the Red Ghost, and the three Super Apes stare in amazement at the one who seems to have appeared from out of nowhere. I wonder who this is. And then their toga and little flats. Then, as the Super Apes start to move forward, they are forced back by waves of sheer irresistible energy. And that's what I mean by a babyish looking watcher. Man, he aged poorly.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Just want a brief comparison here. I mean, to stretch this out too long. but I gotta compare it.
Yeah, that's.
If I can find a panel with him on it. There's his jowly present self.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't have
Some
a
of
neck.
some of the line work or the depth of the inking almost reminds me of those. Who's that guy? The Gustave Doré or whatever that did the woodcut kind of illustrations. It kind of reminds me of that. It's almost got like a. Anyway, it's so much different than the Jack Kirby. I prefer the Kirby Watcher.
I like the Kirby too.
It's more alien-like. Mm-hmm. And his slender extremities and there's not much meat on the face.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a little buff. Look at him. He's been hitting the protein shakes or something. And the Twinkies. So anyway, we get the first appearance of the Watcher. And I wonder if he'll break his oath. Suddenly, before the thing can make another move, the three apes are whisked away from him by an invisible force and placed into unbreaking globules of shimmering synthomatter.
Jeez.
And then a strange, rich voice rings out. Cease this useless conflict. The Watcher commands you. Then slowly, quietly, the Watcher speaks. Hear my words, you of Earth. I come from a world so far from here that you do not even suspect its existence. Our entire home planet is one vast, gigantic computer. So there are other Watchers, just to confirm.
Right.
My people roam the entire known universe, watching, observing other worlds. We have seen planets where life evolved from seas of molten metal. We have witnessed the death of worlds, which were older than your entire galaxy. And worst of all, we have seen once noble races turn savage and warlike with the passing of time, a fate which your own foolish breed seems headed for. I know, I love that. It reminds me of the Jack Kirby and New Gods kind of thing when he did DC. But during all the ages, we have done nothing but watch. Never have we interfered. Never have we made our presence known.
Yeah, right.
But now I have broken the silence of centuries in order to save you people from savagery. You dare think you can stop the communist march of conquest? Shut up, let him finish. Sooner or later, both your nations may engage in a war which might devastate your entire planet. That is not my concern. But now, you bring your conflict to the moon, to my domain. I will tolerate no large-scale war here. Only small wars. Instead, you and only you shall fight it out. I have spoken. Look, he is fading away. So his first appearance is to break his oath of not interfering by making 2 people fight instead of 8, I guess.
Right.
Didn't seem really worth it. He's like, I don't mind it if your 2 regimes nuclearly annihilate each other and make the Earth a barren cinder with missiles. That's fine. But if 8 people come to the moon and have a fist fight, no. I'm breaking my oath. I gotta say something. I normally don't do this, except every time I appear. Well, if we're gonna settle this thing between us, there's no time like the present, Mac. Fool, there's no way you can harm me. You cannot even touch me. I shall defeat you all. I love the way that Reach just reaches over the crater and just grabs him.
I got him.
He's that strong that he can pick up the thing.
Right. Right.
We return to the Watcher. Slowly, the Watcher becomes visible to the Fantastic Four as he stands in his great chamber, using his vast powers to manipulate the very fabric of space and time itself. And now I shall bring both warring factions together in a vast, secluded combat area here upon the moon. So I guess instead of doing one-on-one combat, he's like, all right, do it in my arena, but all of you have to fight now.
It's like the Danger Room.
Yeah, it's almost as if maybe Jack Kirby finished drawing all this, and then when Stan Lee was filling in the words, he's like, wait a minute, I actually committed to something, and then immediately contradicted it based on the pictures I was able to narrate or caption. But we do get this cool showdown between the various powered monkeys and the members of the Fantastic Four. First, we have Sue, in classic era
Sue.
of, oh heavens, putting her hands up to her face in shock. It's a standard female character move of this era. Unfortunately, they're just kind of shocked all the time. The horrible man and those deadly beasts, they must be watching us at this very moment, waiting to strike. The female is right. And you, Torch, shall be my first victim. You cannot flame on if my freeze gun covers you with a coating of ice. Doc Torch, if that substance hits you, a truly noble gesture. You have sacrificed yourself for the Flaming One. But now I can seize the helpless female and hold her hostage. So I guess Reed intercepted the ice blast.
Yeah.
He's got Sue, but not for long. You and me are always clamoring for action, hothead. Well, here's our chance. Let's go. Better keep out of my way here. No gibbering baboon is going to stop the Human Torch.
He looks
But he
mad
snuffs
though.
him out.
Wow.
The fast-moving super ape turns himself into a mass of thick asbestos, smothering Torch's flame within and giving him mesothelioma in the process. So that baboon not only can change into anything, he can just change into any form of matter, apparently, which is very powerful. It's more than the Fantastic, Mr. Fantastic, like forming himself into the shape of something. He can just become a different material altogether.
What?
And he's apparently smart enough to know that
know.
asbestos is good against fire.
Right.
He's smart. He's filled with hatred. I think it's because his heart is filled to the brim with hatred. It makes him smarter. They use a lot of asbestos things in these early 60s issues, too.
Yes, they do.
So anyway, the Thing rushes to Johnny's side and Red Ghost barks out another order and the second Super Ape leaps into the fray. A ton of fighting fury springs at the Thing in the form of a maddened gorilla whose normal brutal strength has been increased 100-fold by the awesome cosmic rays. I love his little smirk as he just tosses the
Thing
orange or
looks tiny.
pineapple-like thing. I know, he's compact in this form.
Yeah.
No matter how strong you are, just let me land one haymaker on you. Just one! That's it, my pet. You obeyed my mental command perfectly. So he can I guess maybe that's why he knew to turn into
Okay.
asbestos, is the Red Ghost can telepathically order them around. But it's like, how do you describe asbestos to a baboon?
Right, exactly.
Change your chemical makeup in this way. Okay.
And how do you keep them from turning on his such pleasant way of speaking to them?
Right,
You
just try
know?
being maybe some positive reinforcement to
yeah.
help your team. And now, my faithful orangutan, adjust your magnetic powers to attract a human body. Good. Now the girl, it doesn't attract his body, but yeah, she awkwardly
my
adheres to his
God.
back.
That's really weird.
He's holding me to him magnetically. I can't move. I'm completely helpless. You know, Magneto does that a lot in the early, I think the X-Men 63 and onward. I've been reading the first couple of years of that, and not only does he control metal, but all sorts of different objects with just the barest amount of metal in them, or like the
iron in your
the iron
blood.
in your blood, of course, or the magnetic fields of the earth. They really stretch the
Oh, yeah.
plausibility of that power, the strength of it to meet their needs. So anyway, they're recovering now that the Red Ghost and his crew have captured Sue. The other three are trying to devise a plan. They grab this tube to use as like a makeshift human jet engine using the
crazy.
fire from the Human Torch's trail and kind of putting it into this turbine-like thing. Ben said Kragoff can't be touched, can't be harmed. I've got to find a way to to defeat him, rather. Perhaps among all these scientific devices from a dead civilization, I can create a weapon. Meanwhile, not far away, I have freed you from the magnetic pole, for you cannot escape from this chamber. See how I keep my super apes separated from those packages of food by a force field? The hungrier they are,
Jerk.
the more they obey me. He's a very food-motivated
Yeah, he
trainer.
is.
No matter how you gloat, Reed, Ben, and Torch will find you soon, and then... But of course I want them to find me. So he's springing a trap. Those poor apes are just staring at the food.
She could use her. Okay, there. She's
If I
feeling
could
it
only
out.
find a way to eliminate this force field, to free the super apes, I would take my chances with them rather than the Red Ghost, for they are like the communist masses, innocently
Oh.
enslaved by their evil leaders. Life was simpler then, wasn't it, Roy? Kragoff has had more time than we to explore the mysteries of the Dead City. Being able to go through walls, he could inspect everything he desired. But there must be a way to control the force field he discovered, if only... Wait, here it is, this master cable. I've broken the circuits. The apes will be free. She's familiar with this sort of technology. Oh, yeah, you just find the master cable, of course, and you unplug that. Just as I expected, they're so ravenously hungry that they don't even notice me in their frantic attempt to get the food which Kragoff had left on the other side of the force screen.
What a jerk! Wow.
It's lucky for me because turning invisible wouldn't save me from them. Their senses of smell could detect me as easily as their eyes. And the super strong one bursts through the door. Meanwhile, Red Ghost is going to confront the other three or to sabotage them. Johnny, stop! Don't do it. It's a trap. So Invisible Woman, she's very useful in this degree, I guess, in this example, but only to a degree that they still don't give her like defining characteristics at this point, or what is her
Yeah.
personality? Doting on the other people.
Well,
and
she's going through. She's going to go in first and
let me turn
investigate.
invisible and walk through there first. I thought so. A deadly ray gun of some sort aimed right at this spot.
Whoa.
Whew, it's not affecting you, sis. I guess it won't react against anything which is below the visible spectrum of light. Well, whatever it is, I'll just make sure it never menaces anyone again. So there you are, Mr. Untouchable. Well, let's see if heating the molecules in the air itself can make it a little warm for you. Blasted brat, you've escaped my trap, but I'll get you yet. I've got to get away from them until I can formulate a new plan.
Oh,
So
there
he's
he
going back
goes.
to the Watcher's Citadel here. And we're almost to our startling conclusion. The Watcher's face, it's like he put his face right up to the webcam. Foolish Earthling! You dare disturb the privacy of the Watcher? In one brief microsecond, I can transport you to a place in limbo where you would remain throughout all of eternity.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Or, by expending the smallest amount of mental energy, I can throw you 1,000,000 years in the past. Or, equally as far distant into the future, where you would witness the end of entire galaxies. But a mere helpless human is not worthy of even that much effort on the part of the Watcher, even though you did those things just to sample them. And so I simply brush you from my presence, as I would do a meddlesome flea. There he is, we found him. Hey, that gizmo you put together really works. Chum, it stopped the Red Ghost dead in his tracks. I knew it would. I designed this paralysis ray to operate on the same molecular level as his own atomic body structure. Yeah, not only can Reed figure out, just from looking at him apparently, his
What his
atomic
at-
structure,
yeah.
but he can harness alien technology from a lost dead civilization. He's like, oh yeah, you just plug the master cable in here, you set it for Red Ghost setting, and boom. Can't be sure yet, Sue. If he's helpless, then we've won. Can't be sure yet, Sue. There is still the Watcher to be heard from, and the 3 super apes are still to be accounted for. The contest is over. You have triumphed. And my mission, too, is at an end. I like that version of him, too.
Yeah.
His giant baby head. He looks kind of intimidating. More
Yeah,
so
yeah,
than the
more so.
muscly, jowly one. Now that mankind has reached the moon, I must go to a more distant part of the galaxy to observe you mortals from afar. For we Watchers must be ever aloof, ever apart from other races. But remember this well. No matter where you voyage, no matter how far you travel, to whatever reaches of this limitless universe, you will never be alone. And now farewell. Space is your heritage. See that you prove worthy of such a glorious gift. But even as the awesome figure of the Watcher dwindles away into the silent night, 5 steel-sinewed fingers slowly close around the discarded paralysis ray gun. Well done, my faithful slaves. You obeyed my mental commands. You have reversed the paralysis ray cycle, freeing me, so the Red Ghost get to escape. He gets to escape with his monkeys. They see him.
Or does he?
Look, the super apes are chasing the Red Ghost away. They're attacking their own leader. Stay back, do you hear me? I'm your master. I made you what you are. Stay back. It's no use. I can't control them. And as long as he holds the paralysis ray, I'm at his mercy. So, yeah, the big one's kind of the new leader, I guess.
Oh, that's great.
Lucky for us, that they are. If they ever reunite, the combination of their superpowers might be enough to defeat our own. Knock it off, Reed. You sound like the voice of doom. We can beat anybody, and you know it. I won't argue, Ben. We're probably better off if we all feel that way. And now we'll return to Earth and present our fully tested rocket fuel to the National Space Agency. Our mission to the moon is finished. It'll be great to get home. We could sure use a rest. So that's the way it went some gulp 11 years ago. Since then, the paths of the FF and the Watcher have crossed many times. But he still remains as much as an eerie enigma as ever, one of the most senses-staggering creations of all in the Marvel Age of Comics. So that's the first appearance of the Watcher, and then a 1974 very long appearance of the Watcher in the Roaring '20s. And I have a feeling we're going to go even further back in time,
We are.
or back in time once again. Probably not before the 20s. Now that I think about
I
it,
could
but-
not resist, as you know.
Oh, I love these old Batmans.
Yes.
So 1939 it appears. These colors.
Uh-huh.
You never see that.
And the drawing style. I love the
so-
drawing style.
I guess they're just very primary colors. I don't know how you describe that, but why are
They're
they?
just
They're
very
just rich.
saturated, yeah,
saturated.
they're-
That's the word I'm looking for.
So the
Batman 28 or
Batman,
Detective Comics
a
28.
mysterious and adventurous figure fighting for righteousness and apprehending the menaces of society in his lone battle against the evil.
I like that little kid, the drawing. His face is
His
funny.
identity remains unknown. This is so weird, that little symbol, like an exclamation
What
point
is
in,
that?
in parentheses. But it's like, he is one.
It's like an H and a...
Bruce Wayne, bored young socialite. Yeah.
Tempest was so bored he wanted to destroy all of creation. Bruce Wayne just dresses up in a costume and jumps on people.
I love, the drawing style is so primitive, but there's something
like it.
so charming or so something. I really like
It gives it a homespun quality of
Yes, it does.
You could do something like this if you want. Not you specifically, but the person reading it
Yes.
can make something like this. That it makes it a little, it adds a realism or like a humanity to it. Where
Yeah,
sometimes
it really
this
does.
virtuosic art is like, it's more.
has
It's hard to identify with. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they both have their.
I mean, yeah, I still like the professionally. Not that this is unprofessional, but the more contemporary, realistic representational style. But there's something cool about this too. I love the pointiness of his mask and the slim ears.
Yes,
They're
this
almost like
logo is
horns.
cool, how he's balancing justice.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that written in there.
So anyway, the young newspaper boy is calling out sensational robbery, police baffled, no clues.
Jewel, Jool,
Jewel.
thief.
He's
Jewel.
a young Ben Grimm.
Yeah, blasted jewel robbery.
That night, Bruce Wayne, the Batman, dials a number and then, disguising his voice, speaks. Hello, Gimpy. This is Commissioner Gordon. Did you get that information about the Jewel Gang? If you did, you'd better spill it, or else you'll be back in the pen to stay. And he called a stoolie, the employee of the police, to give him information on who's doing the robbing. And we cut to these robbers who are on a rooftop, conveniently, and they're up there escaping, making their escape to the roof. Unknowingly, Batman is up there. I love how he's just hiding behind awkwardly.
Part of his cape sticking out.
And,
He's a bored socialite. He's not highly trained in every martial art and science. He's just jumping on people.
I know, look at this drawing. It's great. So suddenly, the figure of a Batman sails through the air. That would
I love because it doesn't even look like a karate kick. It's like he just jumped from the top of the chimney onto the guy's back. It's like, holy crap. He just jumped on that guy?
And the Batman downs one of the jewel thieves as the other, fearful that a shot from a gun might attract the police, draws the ever-silent knife.
The ever-silent knife.
And is at the Batman before he can regain his feet.
Ooh.
And then look at him! Right
Kicks
off
him
the
out,
edge.
kills him.
Uh-huh. That's what, I mean, it's
Another
so
thing, the Bat
ambiguous.
mythos that we take for granted is like, I will kill people, I'll paralyze you, but I believe in the sanctity of life. I want you to be a vegetable.
Except for that guy. Meanwhile, the other thief unsteadily rises to his feet and in a last desperate move reaches for his gun.
I like he's quivering.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I'm always happy to see. We don't need to narrate it. Just give them a cool panel, just action.
Yep.
That seems like such a rare occasion sometimes in these older comics where they're like, he's jumping, and then he says, and they're narrating what the picture's already saying. We could have just watched it and enjoyed it.
Right, yes.
So
the
I love that. That's
simplicity
great.
is beautiful. And so as Batman bends down to grab the jewels, he is seen by the police. It's the Batman.
It's the Bat-Man.
And so he says, what is that? So sorry, gentlemen, but I'm afraid I have to go. Good night. And he just takes off, jumps off, and look at this. He turns
like
a complete somersault in midair and
Oh, it looks
lands
like he got
on his
impaled
feet.
on
I
something.
know. Lands on his feet. on the penthouse below. Then he takes out draws tough silk rope from his
It's
belt
tough silk. I got it from Joann's.
and lassos this flagpole and takes off and makes his
Jumps off
escape.
the roof and somersaults down to his feet, and he's fine. Onto another rooftop, and then uses a silk rope.
This cop, it's like Abbott and Costello. He got away all right.
And how? Woo!
It's great. So they
They're like,
take the guy in.
there's a guy dead on the ground there. Maybe different tone.
So it's their assumption that Batman is the head of the Jewel Clan.
Because
And,
he killed them?
Well, they found him with the jewels, or with the
Yeah, maybe they thought they had a disagreement about it. or he
except for the
betrayed them.
dead guy on the ground.
Yeah.
But then we have this guy, and that Batman certainly fixed us. Ricky's dead. Ricky is dead, and Gloves is in the pen. I'd like to get my hands on that guy. One good thing, though, the cops think the Batman is in on it. And that means they'll be watching for him, and that leaves us free to continue our work. Now, tonight, I want you boys to... And he goes on to give the plans.
He's listening. He's just awkwardly hanging there, just slowly spinning on the end of the rope. His ears trying to go up against the window.
Making a
What was
little-
that sound? Yeah.
And that night, Frenchie's men are at work. Some haul, eh? Slick, it's a good thing the Batman isn't here tonight. Just let him come. We're ready for him this time. And they've got the safe
Wall
open,
safe.
and in comes the Batman.
I thought
right
those wall
through
safes were way more common in real life after watching cartoons and reading comics as a kid. You almost never run into them.
So in comes a black-clad figure of the Batman, swings in the looted apartment.
Yeah, this lettering is rough.
Yeah, it's a little rough. But then we have another fight scene here where
Oh,
we
that's
don't.
cool. Another couple of panels.
Uh-huh.
Or that's a great panel. Even one word.
Yes.
Whoa.
Thanks, gentlemen, for waiting. You'll never know how much I appreciate your favor. And what's he say over there?
Hello, Commissioner Gordon. This is the Batman talking. If you'll send over some men to the Norton home, you'll find something there that might interest you. Good evening, gentlemen. He gets his silk rope out again.
And he drives a red car.
At a medium pace, starts climbing it. You see him pull it up behind him. Yeah, he gets into his red car.
It's crazy. And he has other business. So he, at the apartment of,
Frenchie Blake.
is that you boys?
Yeah, let us in.
Well, we learned that Batman is a master of it.
Impressions, I guess.
Oh, and this drawing is amazing.
It looks like he's just slightly twisting and punching him.
Yes, but what a whack.
I remember always hearing about, as a kid, I didn't really understand why people revered people like Jack Kirby so much when I was a kid, because the art seemed much more cartoony and primitive, but you don't realize that they kind of invented like the motion language. And this is a perfect
Yes.
example of how artists drew motion a certain way where there's just something about these punches and flips that it just doesn't have a kinetic energy to it necessarily. Like, it's cool, and I think the color and these
Yes.
lines sell the impact, but the body language, it doesn't look like he's punching him hard. It doesn't, he gives him a whap. But it's not until we have, these contorted bodies and I guess, what is it called, foreshortening and some of these techniques that Jack Kirby does that really sell the action
Right.
in a different way,
Right. So, yeah, we're learning along with them, developing the art form that we all love.
That's something that I love about reading these old versions of the comics. I kind of avoided them, or it was like eating your vegetables when you're a kid,
Yeah.
of like, I like the 90s stuff, and it's very, very, very different and hyper violent and masculine and stuff. But looking at these old ones is a lot more rewarding now that
Yeah, there's a beauty to the simplicity.
Oh,
There's,
yeah.
I find these early drawings to be very charming. So the Batman quickly ties one end of the rope to a bed, the other around Frenchie's waist, and tosses him out into space.
Into space. It's a weird way of putting it.
Keep quiet and listen. I want a complete written confession from you about the jewel robberies, or else I cut the rope.
You know, that is classic Batman, though.
Yes.
He loves dangling people out and interrogating them.
Oh, yeah. All right. Pull me up. I'll confess. Pull me up. The Batman pulls him in, and Frenchie writes and signs a complete confession. That should interest the police, Frenchie. This is a great panel.
That's
He just
another thing of the action of like
leaps across the
It's so
table.
awkwardly spaced where it just doesn't look. It doesn't look like it's happening.
I don't think I
know.
could leap menacingly across this table. That's the
It looks
exact
like he's
table that we're
awkwardly
sitting
belly
at.
flopping onto the ground and tripped on the table or something.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's all these lines that sell the impact.
Oh, yeah.
But the body language, it looks like he's flexing his bicep or itching his armpit. It doesn't look like he just punched a guy with all of his body weight. And look at his
Yes.
leg. If he was punching with his right arm as hard as he could, wouldn't he plant the right
Right
leg and then
leg
the left leg would come
would-
up a little bit because he'd be twisting into it, I would
Right.
think. Not his left leg's planted and his right, he's itching his armpit. He's like, oh, you really belly flopped on that table after signing your confession.
Are you okay, bud? And don't hit me like that again. Please, don't hit me. Don't. And so he carries him out over his shoulder, ties him up, leaves him on the steps of the police department. Come on, Kelly. Did you see that? In his red car that totally
That's what I was
fits
just
in.
going to bring in. In 1939,
Yeah.
this is a reproduction. So did they really make the colors so vibrant for this reprint?
You think it would be an indiscreet
or was this
car?
was this black and white back in the day? Or were they
good
doing color
question.
comics at this point?
Good question.
Because the other thing I was thinking looking at this old one is it's so heavy in ink work. Sometimes it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like this is almost like a Frank Miller, like a newer.
Oh,
You could
yeah.
see where they drew some of the
You can hear
inspiration
the
for
music
the heavy
that they
inking.
have behind that.
But sometimes like this with the faces, the inking kind of it causes them to scrunch up the faces or it loses some of
Mm-hmm.
the detail. So I wonder what the color difference is.
Yeah, so, looks like the once dapper Frenchie Blake, what does that say? He has
He was sure messed up.
sure messed up.
Look, this letter is for the commissioner. It was pinned to his back. There's also a briefcase. A few minutes later, the commissioner reads the message. Dear Commissioner, I thought you might like to have the leader of the Jewel Gang. Am also leaving his confession and stolen jewels. Till we meet again, I remain the... And he has a stamp of a bat. He has his own stationery. I wonder who the Batman is. Well, that bored socialite was buying a lot of bat-shaped stamps the other day at the stationery store in his red car.
So, yeah.
I do like the way they obscure the cowl in this
Yes.
other cover. It's like his head is sunken into his chest in a weird way, but it makes him look more intimidating.
Yes.
Well,
So-
it's good that I picked such a long comic because
Oh,
yours is
yeah.
like 3 pages long.
Yeah, but it tells a full story. And
It does.
And it develops his
And it's
character.
satisfying, too.
It is.
1939, and then we had
1974,
1974, and then we had 1963
Jeez.
with this reprint. So we're really spanning a lot of time. And we went back to the
And we went
20s
back-
and 1777, so...
I'm exhausted.
Well, yeah, what
Wow.
a time traveling episode. If you made it this far into the episode, please give us a like and comment and subscribe to us for more comic books.